Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Sorry about the intro there. I need to create one for this show, but I just played that countdown a few times. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But here we are, finally, the Uncensored Pharmacist. I've been meaning to start this channel for a while. So let me introduce myself. My name is Will. I am your Uncensored Pharmacist. A lot of you that are probably tuned in tonight probably know me from Game On. I'm Will from Game On. I run a sports channel over at Game On, and we do the Sports Morning Special Shot every single morning with my amazing co-host Cricket. And yeah, welcome in. This is the Uncensored Pharmacist. So for those of you that don't know me, I am a pharmacist. Yes, that is true. And I am here to talk to you about our messed up healthcare system and politics and a whole bunch of things tonight. Here's what I got on the menu for tonight. Okay. We're gonna listen, first of all, this channel isn't just gonna be completely political. I know that's the easy route to go. It's not gonna be all things politics, but politics is everywhere now, man. I mean, it's in sports, right? It's just infesting sports. It's infesting healthcare a ton. I mean, just look at the lockdowns, right? Look at the lockdowns, look at the whole COVID pandemic, right? We got to see politics, governors playing doctor out there. You could say presidents playing doctor out there. Healthcare officials wanting to run your life for a political agenda. So it's kind of hard not to mingle with politics, but it doesn't mean it's going to be all politics. So tonight, let me lay out tonight what we're going to do, and then I want to go into what I want this channel to be. So first off, tonight we have we're going to cover one topic. The one topic we're going to talk about is the DNC was this week, right? The DNC was this week, and it was interesting. We'll just say it was interesting. But one thing that caught my attention, the reason why I want to talk about this is Joe Biden went out the first day of the DNC, and I believe he was the last speaker. Anyways, we're going to pull up something he talked about because he talked about healthcare. Right? Of course he did. So we're going to get into that. There's a couple things that he said about healthcare that I want to talk about that I think are interesting. So that's what we're going to cover tonight. Maybe we'll get into one of the other topics I have pulled up, but we'll just see, because I do also have, in about 8 hours, I have to do my morning show at 4:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So in 8 hours, I got to do my normal live stream, or I guess not my other live stream that I do. But here's what will happen if we don't get into the other topics the next show. Let me tell you what's going to happen on the next show, because this is going to be just a little introduction. I don't know really what I want this channel to be, what it's going to evolve into. Part of me of starting this channel, it took me forever. One, just because of time. I don't have much of it as a father of 5, and working a full-time job as a pharmacist, plus running another channel in the morning. So I can't tell you when the next stream is going to be. Hopefully here, as we get the ball rolling, we can get a consistent schedule set up. Maybe, right? Maybe. We'll see. But I think we're going to have some fun with this. The main reason why I started this channel is because I got a lot to say outside of the world of sports. I love sports. Sports are amazing. It's a great escape, even with all the woke and crazy stuff and political stuff that they're pushing in sports. It still is one of those things. The thing I always say about sports for me is, a lot of people are like, how can you watch that woke crap? How can you watch this? How can you watch that? Well, I'm not going to let them take that away from me, because that was my outlet. That's my outlet. That's something that I enjoy doing with my father, and I plan on doing with my children as they get older. So I love sports, but I also am in the world of healthcare, and a little bit about me. We'll get into that in a second. So yeah, so we're gonna do all that, and I see you guys in the chat. I'm gonna say hello here in a second, but other things that I have on the menu for the next show, if we don't get to get to another topic tonight, we have what's behind America's doctors crisis, right? So we're going to cover this article that talks about, wow, why is it so hard to get an appointment? Why is it so hard to establish care somewhere? Why are doctors getting burnt out? Why are pharmacists getting burnt out everywhere they go? Why is healthcare? Why does it take forever to not only A, get a doctor, but B, get your prescriptions filled at one of these chain pharmacies, right? So we're going to talk about that because I've got some insight on that. Another thing that we're going to dive into that I think is interesting is fasting, because this is also going to be, we're going to talk about fitness and health because those go together. But we're going to talk about we're going to dive into the science behind intermittent fasting because I think it is very beneficial, and we're going to look at some research and see exactly what does intermittent fasting do for people. Is it really as healthy as we think it is? And is it something that you should maybe consider working into your daily routine? And then another one that we're going to talk about is that falls on line of health is, I mean, just stuff crap that we put in our body, all the food that we have out there. So there's this article called "Popular Sweetener Linked to Increased Risk of Blood Clots, Heart Attacks, and Strokes." So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about sugar, fake sugar, all that kind of stuff. So those are three articles that I want to get into and dive into, plus so much more. But a little bit about myself. One of the reasons why I wanted to start this channel and talk about healthcare is because there's a lot of other things I want to talk about outside of the world of sports. And I've got being in pharmacy, being in healthcare. There's just some days I want to rant. I write topics down in my phone. I usually bring them up a little bit on the show, just briefly, of our sports show because we try to keep it sports related. But it's one of those things that I want to rant about, and this will be a great outlet to do that, right? It will be a great outlet to do that. Might as well monetize it, right? Might as well monetize it. So that's the plan there. And I appreciate all you guys here hanging out with me tonight. And so a little bit about myself. My name is Will. I am a husband, a father of five. I got 4 kids under 4. That's I got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 2 twin baby girls that are almost 7 months old, and a 14-year-old going into high school. So busy, 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 busy life. I graduated. I am a pharmacist. I did my undergrad. So I lived my whole life in Washington State. I went to Washington State University. Go Cougs, baby. As you can see, the helmet behind me. Go Cougs. And then I went to pharmacy school with WSU up in Spokane, off the Pullman campus. It actually moved up my first year, moved up to Spokane in the new, at the time, the new building that they built up there. Got a lot of stories about all of that and about our whole educational system too. We'll dive into those some other nights as well. But I'm saying way too many times. I get it. I get it. I get it. I'm just excited. I'm excited that I'm finally doing this. Let's take a breather here. Let's take a breather. Cheers, everyone. So about myself, I am a pharmacist. I graduated pharmacy school in 2017 from Washington State University. I got my doctorate of pharmacy. I've been practicing pharmacy. I originally started out at a community healthcare clinic. So I took a lot of my skills that I learned in pharmacy school. And I wasn't just your typical pharmacist that would just fill prescriptions. No, I could work a retail pharmacy really well. I'm actually, I'd argue, I am the best retail pharmacist in the nation. No one can manage a pharmacy better than I can. No one can run a pharmacy better than I can. And people think, well, what does that mean? People think that they run stuff well, but they don't. I know my this is why I'm the uncensored pharmacist, right? I'm different than everyone else. I'll call stuff out. I don't walk the line. I don't follow. I don't want to say, lack of a better word, I don't follow the rules, but I don't do the typical stuff. Listen, I run a pharmacy very well, and running a pharmacy isn't just about like filling prescriptions. It's about um, filling prescriptions, connecting with the community, being not just someone that wants to push people towards drugs, right? Someone that actually cares about people and wants to be straight and honest with them, even with the OTC recommendations, right? Over the counter drugs. A lot of the times I tell people, hey, yeah, that's worthless. You don't need it, right? I'll be straight up honest with you. That being so, with that, it's also running a pharmacy is about being profitable, right? I work in an independent pharmacy right now. I've worked most of my life in an independent pharmacy. It's amazing. I hate chain pharmacies. We'll get into that another night. That is a whole rant in itself. One of the other topics I want to talk about is why Walgreens and Rite Aid and all these other big chain stores are shutting down so many pharmacies. I've got a lot to say on that. We'll get to that another night. That being said, also running a pharmacy, one of the biggest things about running a pharmacy is like managing people, not just you got all this stuff to deal with. You know, one, filling prescriptions accurately and helping the community and making sure people get the right drug, the right dose, right? All that kind of stuff. But also you gotta manage your team. And that is not easy. Anyone that is in management knows what I'm talking about. That is not easy. But I'm pretty damn good at doing all of those things. So I'm going to stick to the fact that I am the best retail pharmacist in the country. No one can run a pharmacy better than I can. And well, we'll get into all that going forward. But yeah, so I started my career off working in, I'll just give you a little bit about myself. Working in community health for about 13-ish months. I got a job at a community clinic. For those of you that don't know what a community clinic is, it's one of those underserved populations. We have special contracts, or I guess community pharmacies have special contracts with the government, meaning they can get cheaper drugs so they can service it to the less fortunate. And it was great because I got to learn a lot of different skills, or apply the skills that I learned in school. Meaning, I wasn't just working retail and filling scripts. I was meeting with patients, sitting down with patients, making dose adjustments, prescribing. I could prescribe medication. I still can prescribe medication because of where I currently work. But I could sit down. I would sit down with patients, and a doctor would see them at our clinic and prescribe them insulin, for example. And then anyone who's been on insulin, it's a huge shock, right? When you first, it's like, what is all this? I got to check my blood sugars. I got to inject this. I poke myself so many times. There's a lot, and you can't always understand everything in that brief. Even if you have an hour with a doc or a nurse when you first get diagnosed, being insulin dependent, you're in shock as a patient, right? You're in shock. So I would be the one that would come up with the follow-up appointment, because also as a doctor, I mean, you have a guideline of like kind of like what to follow, but everyone's different. So you need them to sit down with you and come check back in with you to make sure you have the right dose. Is it too much, too little, or are we kind of right on the right path at least? But as we were talking about, it's very hard. One of the topics I want to talk about, the articles I was saying at the beginning of this, was why is it so hard to get an appointment with your provider? That being said, so they would come see me. They would come see me. I'd sit down with them. We'd go over their sugar logs and stuff like that. So I did things like that. Got to do a lot of clinical things. I actually was, for a while, I would refill prescriptions for them and whatnot. Then I went and worked for an independent pharmacy. And I've been in independent pharmacy ever since. I love independent pharmacies because, one, it's just, you get to connect with the community so much better than you do at a chain pharmacy. I spent my whole life in Washington State. The pandemic forced me out of Washington State. We'll get into this in another topic, and I'll go in great detail, because one of the things that really pissed me off about healthcare was, governors playing doctors and trying to force things on people, including the jab, right? And well, I was not allowed to work in Washington State if I didn't get it. And I ended up packing my family up, and we moved over to Idaho. So I'm in the great state of Idaho, where I got a lot more freedom and personal choice, and professional freedom too. So I can do a lot more. So I've been in Idaho for a little over a year now, and I love it. I work for another independent pharmacy in rural Idaho. I love that. Love my job there, and I actually can do a whole lot more. So that's a little bit about me. I've been doing that. I graduated in 2017, as I said, and I've been in the retail pharmacy the whole time. So that's a little bit about me. This channel, what I want this channel to get into is, we're going to get into politics, because healthcare and politics are just, it's messy, right? We're going to get into politics. We're going to get into fitness and healthcare, because one of the things I want to discuss with people is, like, I don't, as a pharmacist, I really don't like people being on medications. I'm currently not on any medications myself personally. Um, and I want to help people get off medications. I know that sounds weird because that's not part of my job, right? Now, some people need medications. I totally get it. All right, I get it. There's hormonal stuff. You can't. You got low thyroid. You got to deal with it, right? There's some things that you just can't control, and you got to be on medication. But let's try to limit people. If you're willing, right? If you're willing, you want to get off some of these drugs, I want to help you. I actually, that's a great point. I just forgot something. Should have started this whole thing off with, I am not your pharmacist. I am not your healthcare provider. This is not healthcare advice. This is my own personal opinion. You should go talk to your own doctor. You should go talk to your own pharmacist. Okay. Let's just start there with that. This is not healthcare advice. Please don't trust. Listen, you shouldn't trust a guy on the internet, right? You shouldn't trust a guy on the internet that claims to be a pharmacist. I actually am a pharmacist. As you can see behind me, there's my degree, right behind me. So I am, but you shouldn't trust me on that. Don't do it. Go talk to your own doctor. Okay. This is my own opinion. This is not an opinion of anyone that I don't represent the place I work for or anything like that. This is just all me, uncensored, unfiltered, just fun. Um, but so we got that out of the way. But we are going to get into some things about how people can maybe help themselves get off some of these medications. Now, there's nothing wrong with being on medications either. Like sometimes you got to be on medications, but then you can work towards getting off those medications. A lot of medications that are prescribed, people can come off of. So all that being said, this is kind of what I want the show to be. I want the show to be, we're going to get into political stuff, we're going to health and fitness. We're going to cover, medical news, of course, random things that catch my eye. One thing about fitness and healthcare that we're going to do myself. Here's a little personal thing about me is I used to be in high school. My senior year of high school, I was 185 pounds when I played football. I wrestled at 160 my senior year. I worked out during college, but since college, I haven't really had any desire to work out. And it's been a personal choice. It's just been, I got so many other things in my life. I drank way too many of these Coors Lights, and all that stuff. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get back into shape. So we're going to do this journey together. When we're going to talk about health and fitness, we're going to get into all this together, and I'm going to do it personally. So I'm going to practice what I preach and just kind of show you guys firsthand of what can be done. So we're going to talk health, fitness, politics, pharmacy, healthcare, all that kind of stuff, plus whatever you guys want. So if you guys want, please bring up topics that you would like to cover, tag me in things, come over to the, right now, I only have one locals community. It's gameon.locals.com. It's my sports community. We're going to have the Uncensored Pharmacist and Game On be there. If this channel grows and gets into something big, I will separate them at that time, right? But for now, we're just going to keep everything simple, and we'll see where it goes. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's what I have planned for this show. And that's wow, we're 19 minutes into me rambling. Let's check out and see who's actually here though. Let me pull up the chat over on Rumble. Shout out to Rumble. You guys are amazing. Love Rumble as always. We got, by the way, over on the YouTube side of things, we got Mastering the Rumble over there. Shout out, buddy. How you doing tonight? And let's say hello to the Rumble chat. And also, shout out to Rumble. They got me up featured up on one of the spots up there. That's cool. That's cool. Thank you, Rumble. Let's see who's here. Georgia Apollo. This should be good. Welcome. Yeah, it should be good. Mastering's over here on the Rumble side too. DNC was fake most of all. Paid actors. Oh, God, tell me about it, dude. Tell me about it. It's just, I don't get how you even one of my friends who's on the left. He even said, I don't like the fact that they're running on a platform where they act like the next. He said, sorry, I saw Mastering the next stream in 2028. No, it will be. I'm going to try I want to get on a consistent basis here. Anyways, he even said, I don't like that they're running on the fact that like they're not in office. There was that thing that went around. What was it? It was some news agency, some guy on like CNN or Fox or whatever it was, but he was like, we got to be honest. They want to blame Trump for everything, yet the Democrats held the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. So the fact that they're running out there, they're going out there, they're not stating any policies. They decided to swap candidates and put someone up there that got 0 votes, the most unpopular vice president of all time. And their strategy is, we're not going to have any policies. We're just going to say we're going to do all these things for you, even though, like, if we could, why haven't we done them over the last 3 years? And then, or I guess 3.5 years now. And then also, we're just going to act like we're not in office. And, you elect me and we're going to do this. And the biggest point was, we're just going to remind people that Trump's bad. Trump is bad. So I guess. I don't know. We'll see how that works out for them. It should be fun this election cycle the next few months. Hope only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. That's right. Communists, Kamala. That's right. Jay Miller's in the house. What up, Jay Miller? Cricket couldn't make it tonight because he ingested too many pills. Cricket was actually telling me he really wants to hop on one of these. Obviously, the first one I wanted to do by myself, but yeah, Cricket's gonna come in here. We'll have guests. We'll do some things. It's gonna be fun. Kamala forever linked to Brandon. That's right. That's right. And Bear with the Machine Guns in the house. What up, buddy? Good evening, good people of Rumble. Finally get to catch an episode of the Uncensored Pharmacist. Well, this is the first episode, the first live stream. Here we are. Low on both sides. Yes, on both sides. That's right. We're gonna call out stuff on both sides too, because there's a lot of people want to pick left and right and be divided on stuff. And really, the problem is Congress. A lot of people, even with Joe Biden, right? I mean, everyone want to blame Trump for everything, but even Joe Biden, they want to blame Joe Biden on some things. And it really, I mean, we all know the guy's not there, right? He's not really running things. But they want to pin it on Joe, and I'm like, the problem isn't Joe. The problem is Congress, right? The establishment, the deep state, the people that actually run things. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Where they don't care about us plebs, right? They don't care about us that all at all. But the first thing that I want to get into, is Joe Biden's speech at the DNC. That's what I want to get into tonight. Specifically the healthcare parts. I got them marked. We're going to pull that up here in a second. But yeah, he said some things that we got to talk about. Let's see. Jones Apollo says, I believe communism is the people we are having. Is the problem, not the people. The problem we are having. Yeah, that's it. It's actually just people that are in power, that love power and don't really care about the average person because they're so disconnected from the average American, right? We'll get into that. The other stuff that the channel is going to be like, we're going to talk about our educational system and what's all screwed up with it. I went through it firsthand. All right, so I can tell. I'll tell you firsthand. I went through it. I got, I think I'm at $115,000. I came out of pharmacy school with $175,000 in debt. So we'll go into all of that. And I'm not out here asking for anyone to forgive anything or anything like that. But I do think there is a huge problem with our healthcare system, not just the student loan stuff, but also the what they're teaching in healthcare. You guys are gonna be shocked. They're trying to dumb providers down. You don't have anymore the provider that just has all this experience. You know that old doc, that like 7-year-old doc who's seen everything in his life, and if you go to that guy, you're gonna get the right thing because they got all this experience. They don't teach that anymore. Or they don't encourage that. I shouldn't say, because you can't really teach that. It's all based off experience, but they don't encourage that anymore. It's all about following the guidelines. And they just create puppets and brainwash them and say, you got to follow these guidelines that the government say that is correct. And if you don't, then, well, you could be liable for things. So that's a whole nother topic for another night, but we'll get into all that. Jordan Apollo says, I've heard healthcare is great in Canada. Bear says, Cricket, the leader of the Repeal the 19th Army. Yeah, we're going to bring the leader of the Repeal the 19th Army in here one of these nights too. Canada. That's funny. Let me pull up what we got going on first. But actually, before we get into that, let's do since we are on Rumble, we love Rumble, and Rumble's featuring us. They're kind to us tonight. Let's do one of these. Let's want to do one of these reads. We are running out of Rumble Studio right now. Hold on. Sorry. What does this say? Usually this is where I have Cricket fill in. ultimatedoghill.com. That's perfect. Got the right spot. We're good. I want to tell you guys about something here. We're talking healthcare tonight, so let's talk about pet health. Let's also talk about pet health. If your dog's coat is dull, energy is low, itchy, ears are red, if their breath or poop smells very bad, if they're just not doing as well, right? We all know. We know when our dogs or our pets just aren't doing great. These can be warning signs of bad health. The first thing we want to do is look at the nutrition. Same thing we do with with people, right? Let's see what you're eating. Let's see what you put in your body. What do you put in your pet's body? Basically, the dog food makers take healthy ingredients and pressure cook them at a super high temperature, and when it comes out the other end, you've got this brown mush. Ugh. The food is supposed to last for 2 to 3 years on the shelf, but that means some pretty bad stuff has gotten into the food to make it last that long. Plus, if you want to get healthy stuff too, it's really not. It's really expensive. It's really expensive. Studies showing that this process can even lead to serious conditions. Dr. Gary Richer has helped thousands of dogs with issues that seem impossible to go away. He's made a video to alert you, every pet owner must know, and you can watch and learn about it here at ultimatedoghealth.com/studio. That's ultimatedoghealth.com/studio. That's what I have pulled up right here. You type that into the URL, ultimatedoghealth.com/studio. It's linked at the bottom of this video. You can also scan the QR code. Make sure that you go to the ultimatedoghealth.com/studio or click the link below in the description below and go check this out. Dr. Richard here, Gary Richard, he's got some news for you that you need to know about your pets. So if you care about your pets, go check this out. It's free. Go there. Booyah. Okay. There we go. There we go. Let me catch up on the chat. Okay. Now let's go over to Joe Biden. Great spot. Great spot to pause on him, right? This just sums up Joe right there. Anyways, we're gonna go through this. Just a few parts of his speech. We're not going, obviously, you can see we're 12 minutes into this thing. I've just got a couple parts that I want to talk about because he brings up healthcare, which is a big topic. It's a big deal. A lot of seniors out there. We've got to talk about some things because my generation doesn't understand it because we're not in it, which I feel like the older population might appreciate because you didn't really think about your healthcare until you get into it, and then you don't realize how screwed up our whole healthcare system is until you're really in it, and then it's too late to really kind of actually it's not too late to fight against it, but like you wasted all those years younger that maybe you should have focused on healthcare. But you're young, you're invincible, right? You're in good health. You're not worried about healthcare. You don't care about premiums, insurance, all that stuff, and what things cost, and going to the doctor and labs and all that stuff. No. You're invincible. So I'm hoping this brings just some awareness to things. But also, one of the things is just to be able to spot when politicians on both sides of the aisle, by the way, are just lying to you about things because that's what they do. That's what they do. They lie about things because they're politicians, right? They're politicians. So let's listen to what Joe has to say about healthcare.
Just think about it. COVID no longer controls our lives. We've gone from economic crisis to the strongest.
I sure would hope COVID doesn't control our lives. What is it? 4 years into this thing? I sure would. I mean, the fact that we even locked down to begin with was ridiculous, but I sure would hope that COVID doesn't control our lives at this point.
Economy in the entire world. Record 16 million new jobs. Records.
That makes me so mad. If you don't like, this is, I don't know why they keep spewing this. I think this just shows that politicians and people in power are so out of touch with the average day American. Because even if you're on the left, you know that this administration didn't create 16 million new jobs. And you don't even have to count the fact that they overestimated the numbers over a million. Almost over 1 million jobs over the last year, right? Because we know all those numbers are fudged, which should make you think too in healthcare. When you hear about all these studies about these new drugs, and this study says this and this study says that, we'll get into all that in another show. Drug studies you can't just read the headline. You have to dive into the meat and potatoes. The drug studies are a dirty business. And the people that are peer reviewing these drug studies are the same, are their friends. So of course they're going to approve your paper, right? Why not? Because then when I have a paper and a study, you're going to approve mine. But you got to look into the details of it. It's not what the headline says. You'll see a headline says, this drug decreases diabetes or heart disease, by 15% or whatever. It decreases your chance. They don't even get into percentage. They say this is just, this drug will decrease your chance of going to, we saw it with the jab, right? I get this thing and you're guaranteed not to get COVID. And that was BS. You're going to decrease your chances of going to the hospital. That was BS. because the chances of going to the hospital is low to begin with. But it's statistically significant. You'll see them throw those around. Statistically significant, right? There's a lot of BS in those. It's like accounting, right? Accounting. You can make the numbers kind of look and say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers. So you can spin it and shape it into your favor and try to look at it through a different lens that is positive for you. That doesn't mean that's what it is. So that's going to be something that we'll get into on another stream. But I'm so good at pausing Biden. Look how terribly it looks right here. Change the definition of recession, fake TNC. That's right. Also, change the definition of what it means to be, to what the definition of a vaccine or to be immunized. All the different things that they changed. It's crazy. It's crazy. But that's government. That's why when people get skeptical, I shake my head. Like some people will finally get there on one topic, whatever topic's important to them, I guess, and they'll be like, "Oh, the government's lying to me on this." But then they'll turn around and believe the government on other things. Like, oh, why would they lie about healthcare? Why would they lie about what's going in our food? Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It's like, really? Even though you were just here saying, hey, I don't believe them on such and such because this topic's I know they're lying to me here. But that's the thing about this, like the 16 million jobs. I feel like even people on the left know, hey, that's not real. Like you shouldn't be patting yourself on the back about that because that's a lot of people that you kept a lot, unemployed because it was more beneficial to be unemployed because you got those $600 extra on top of your unemployment check from the government. By the way, this was passed by both Republicans and Democrats, so it's on both sides. But you, folks, how's your thyroid? Me, my thyroid's good. His, I don't know. But so we have where was that? Oh yeah, so it's like we know that those 16 million jobs are not real. Like that's not real. That's just you're just rehiring people back, but you're taking credit for it. It's such a bizarre thing to throw at you, but then that should they don't realize that fires back in their face even with the people on the left. Because people on the left aren't stupid. They're like, no, you didn't create 16 million jobs. I'm out here trying to find a decent job. I got to work 2 jobs. Maybe you got 16 million jobs. I got to work 2 jobs. I get counted twice, right? You know what I mean? It's crazy. That's crazy. But I think the average person knows, hey, those were jobs that were just hired back on because people were laid off while we were all shut down. Makes sense.
Small business growth, record high stock market, record high 401ks, wages up, and inflation down, way down, and continue.
Does anyone feel like wages are up, inflation's down? That's another thing that always gets at me, and I hate it. I hate it. When they'll be like, look at inflation was 4% last month. This month it's 3.5. Inflation's going down. Okay. Year over year. Okay. Let's go year over year. All right, it was 4%. Now it's only 3.5. Well, guess what? That means it's still going up. You know what I mean? Like it's down from the previous month or the previous year. Okay, cool. But it still went up 3.5% on top of the 4% it went up last year. So it's already going up on another higher number. And it's just, I mean, it's just one of those things. Go to the grocery store, right? Go to the grocery store. See what you can buy with $100. You used to go to Walmart with $100. You get a cart full of things. Now you can't walk out of Walmart without spending $100. It's insane. But they think we're stupid. And there are some stupid people out there that just buy into this stuff. Right? Right? Because we're so divided. You got to pick a team. And you got to be on team A or team B, right? It's silly.
Continuing to go down. The smallest racial wealth gap in 20 years. And yes, we both know we have more to do, but we're moving in the right direction. More Americans have peace of mind that comes from having health insurance.
This is where we're getting into the healthcare stuff. We're going to talk about health insurance.
Americans have health insurance today than ever before in American history.
That may be true, but that's not always a good thing. One thing in healthcare, if you're someone that has health insurance, you know this. Why do premiums go up 20% every single year? Roughly 20%, right? Why do insurance premiums keep going up 20% every year, yet you're getting the same coverage, if not worse? If you work like me, now if you work for like a big chain, a big corporation, yeah, they get great deals on coverage, right? But if you work for an independent small business, like I work for an independent pharmacy, you work for a small business, it is terribly hard to get good deals or get a good insurance plan. It sucks because your premiums go up every year, and then you also got this, out of pocket deductible to meet, right? Out of pocket max. I just had twins this year. I paid my out of pocket max. Well, I'm paying on it right now. I got a little bit left. I had to sell my truck to do it. You know what I mean? I had to sell my truck to do it. It's crazy. But my out of pocket max was $17,000. It's like what on top of the premiums I pay. It's like what are we doing? This is having healthcare. They act like you have healthcare coverage and all healthcare coverage is the same. It's not. You know me, I got to pay $17,000 plus all my premiums all year. Yet someone that's on Medicaid gets to go have their kids for free. You know, sucks. Terrible system. I got to go and work, right? I got to go and work, bust my ass, pay taxes, pay my healthcare premiums, and what do I get in return? Hey, here's a $17,000 bill, just because you want to have some kids. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's just another example of how our healthcare system is screwed up. I have nothing against anyone that's on Medicaid. There are people that abuse it, and we'll talk about that another time. But there's a lot of people out there, single mothers, struggling families, and hell, even people I went to pharmacy school with, they needed to be on it while they were in pharmacy school. Okay, cool. I mean, it should be an ends to mean, right? I mean, like you should be on it for a limited time, like when you're down in the dumps. It shouldn't be a permanent thing. But our system has been so created to get people dependent on the government, get it dependent on Medicaid and Medicare, that it's so easy to just get on it now and to stay on it. And you don't want to go work because then you'll have to. That's the thing is that you don't want to go work because if you go work, then they're going to offer you private insurance or you're going to make so much money that you come off the Medicaid. And if you make that, then you got to start paying more. You got to start paying for things, right? Because you're paying for nothing. You got to start paying for things. You got to start paying these premiums. You got to start paying these deductibles, these out of pockets expenses. And people are like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to do that? Then I'll have less money than I have now. It's like, oh, well, welcome to everyone else that's out there working. Welcome to everyone else that's out there working. It sucks. It's terrible. Not many people are talking about it, especially my generation. Because, like I said, we're just not there. Like, you don't run into this stuff. You don't care about this stuff till you get older and have health problems. Random Shrub says it's not so much money either. It's the line between affording to live without insurance or not being able to afford to live. That's yeah. Great point. Great point. And welcome in, Random Shrub. Glad to have you here. Yeah, it's the line between affording to live without insurance or not being able to afford to live. It's crazy. It's crazy. You should be able to go work. I mean, the Democrats talk about this all the time. You should be able to go work at 9 to 5 and be able to afford all these things, just be able to afford to live. Like nothing fancy, but roof over your head, food on the table, healthcare coverage, right? It's not how it is though. Their idea of it is let's just raise them the minimum wage, and that's stupid. Let's have government handouts. That's stupid. He's about to say something. Actually, I'll let him talk here, and I'll point it out here in a second.
And after, as a young senator beginning to fight for 50 years to give Medicare the power to negotiate low prescription drug prices, we finally beat Big Pharma.
Newsflash, they didn't beat Big Pharma. Big Pharma still lines their pockets, congressmen's pockets. They have all their lobbyists. They didn't beat Big Pharma. I know you guys are smart enough to know that and that you guys aren't surprised by this at all, as you shouldn't be.
And guess who cast the tie-breaking vote? Vice President, soon-to-be President Kamala Harris.
They should keep saying that. They should keep saying, "Hey, guess who cast that tie?" This is the thing too that is terrible about Congress. I just talk about how like a lot of people want to blame the president and everything, but we got to start focusing on Congress and our congressmen. Like, how do these people that are just complete idiots keep getting elected? Because there's something wrong with our system, and not enough people are paying attention to it, and they're focusing on left and right and just voting, for the party instead of just like, "Hey, what has this person actually done for me?" This career politician that's been in the Senate for 20, 30, plus years. What are they actually doing? They just talk a lot, but they aren't doing it. But one of the things that they're talking about is like, "Oh, she cast the tie-breaking vote on this, which allowed us to do," he's going to get into it, make insulin $35 and blah, blah, blah. Okay. She also, in that tie-breaking vote, did a lot of other things because Congress can't just write a bill and pass the bill. The bill has to be filled with 1,000 different things. So you'll see that, you guys all know this. You'll see them talk about, "Oh, we did this, we did that. The Inflation Reduction Act, we did this. We beat inflation." And that's the other thing, that the name itself, all these bills, the name itself is just do the opposite. So the Inflation Reduction Act, no, it actually increased inflation. Stuff like that. Right. So when you hear like, she cast a tie-breaking vote on this, it's like, well, she also, was the one that tie-breaking vote that she cast also was in favor of taxing tips, which, Trump's running on right now, says he doesn't want to tax tips. Kamala tried to copy him on that. And of course, Kamala, she's just copying, this reminds me of the Roman times. If you guys ever studied Roman history, like the fall of the Roman Republic, the rise and fall of it, it was very early on. This would be even before Caesar's time. It was when they were first getting, it was the Gracchi brothers, Gracchi, I can't remember how it's pronounced. Anyways, one of them, he was a populist, right? And he's coming out and he's running against the establishment of the Senate. He wants to be elected tribute of the plebs, I think it was what it was called. Basically like their president. And you get to be elected for a year for that, and you have the voice of the people, and you have a lot of power. Well, the Senate didn't like this guy, and so they cast their own candidate to run against him. So let's say one of the Gracchi brothers would come out and say, "Hey, I'm gonna get you guys an acre of land. Everyone out here, I'm gonna fight for that. We're gonna get an acre of land." Well, the Senate candidate would just come out and say, "You know what? He's gonna give you an acre of land. I'm gonna give you 3 acres of land. How about that?" So everything that he would propose, the Senate candidate that they had that they just wanted him defeated would come out and just do more and just say more, with zero intentions of actually fulfilling the promises. They were just empty promises. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to say, they wanted to get people's vote. They wanted like, "Hey, don't vote for that guy. I'll do the same thing he's doing, but I'll get you more," right? You want more. More is good, right? Everyone wants more. Vote for me. How about that? And it worked. And guess what? Didn't fulfill those promises. They didn't fulfill those promises at all. And then unfortunately, he met a terrible fate. Both Gracchi brothers met terrible fates, and the Senate basically ended up whacking them. And this is another example too of what's great about Roman history. You guys should look into it. Is like the problem of like trying to take out political opponents. You can watch Rome and see study Rome and see that's not a great path. That's not a great path. It doesn't work out. Never works out. But that could be another show, another day. Bottom line is, Kamala comes out here and copies Trump, and it reminds me of the Roman times. Like, oh, he wants to do no tax on tips. I don't want tax on tips either. What are you talking about? We don't need tax tips. That's crazy. Even though I was the tie-breaking vote on that. So here Joe is talking about her being the tie-breaking vote, pointing out, like, that bill was also like had a whole bunch of other stuff in it, including her wanting to tax tips, which is weird because now she says she doesn't want to. Strange. Big random show. Big Pharma running through those veins to even make it through the speech. That's true. I just want to hear, "You fired." I wish I could do a good Trump. "You fired." I can't do it. I tried. Yeah.
And now it's the law of the land. Instead of paying $400 a month for insulin, seniors with diabetes will pay $35 a month.
Now we got to the thing that I wanted to talk
Along-
about. That bill. Listen, we all know Trump got that thing passed. But let's talk about what that is. And that did happen. They did have it. Insulin, your copay on insulin can't be more than $35. But here's the caveat: only if you're on Medicare. Which, I mean, seniors, congratulations, good for you. I'm glad that helps you out. But think about everyone else. That screws everyone else over in private insurance. Because where do drug companies and insurance, not even just when you think of drug companies, you got to think of also insurance plans. They're the same thing. They work together, they collude together. It's all one big business tied together. So when you hear drug companies, bad, evil, think of insurance companies because they're worse. They're worse. We'll talk about a lot of that on this show about how terrible insurance companies are. Anyone who's had to deal with insurance companies know how terrible insurance companies are. But where are the insurance companies going to make up that money? Like, well, I was getting 400 for this, and now I'm getting, now I have, you were paying a higher copay on this $400. Now I got to make up for it. Now I'm going to give you, we're going to talk about this, and then I'm going to tell you what actually happened. But let's just run with this theory because it's other drugs and stuff that this applies to. So with the insulin, say it was $400 for vial insulin. Beforehand, you had to pay like 300, and your insurance paid 100 of it, right? Now you only have to pay 35 if you're a senior. So where do they make up that? Obviously, the insurance has to cover the rest of it because that's the whole point of having insurance is they got to pay that out. Well, one, they don't. They don't. They just pay the pharmacy less, which anyone that owns an independent pharmacy knows that the margins are tight. And insurances are terrible at paying, like a lot of insurances are, especially like Medicaid and Medicare, terrible at paying you out. A lot of times you don't even break even on the script that you fill. How about that? That's what people don't tell you. People think that pharmacies are just cash cows. No, most of the prescriptions that I fill, we're net negative. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so where else do they make up for that? Okay, hey, guess what? Cool. You only get paid $35. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. But it's only for people on Medicare. So now private insurance gets screwed. So now private insurances are going to be charged out the wazoo. They're going to start raising prices on them. So people with private insurances all of a sudden are now having to make up for the people on Medicare. It's like the same thing with Medicaid, right? People on Medicaid, I got to pay anything. Medicaid pays out nothing, but private insurances pay out the wazoo. Okay, it's fine. Even if you got private insurance, maybe your copay stays the same. That's cool. But your private insurance company is still paying more. So guess what? Next time your insurance contract comes up every year, right? End of the year, hey, we got to sign up, renew our plans or sign up for a new plan. Your premiums go up. Now you might not notice it because maybe you work for a big company and they cover all these things, but your premiums go up. And even if you do work for a big company and your employer has to pay more and you don't, you should still be bothered by that. Why is your employer paying 20% more for the same coverage that was just the same as a year ago? Think of it as like small business. How are small businesses supposed to compete with that? Big businesses can, but then at the same time, big businesses are like, man, I got 1,000 employees. I mean, we've got, this is going to go up. Maybe theirs don't go up 20%. Maybe theirs only go up 10% because they got so many employees. They get special deals with these insurance companies. Still, they gotta make up for that money somewhere. That means cutting hours. It comes out of everywhere. So it's just ridiculous because the insurance companies just keep jacking things up and they get to dictate so many different things, how much they want to pay, how much they want to charge you. And you don't even see on the back end how you're getting screwed. I get to see it because I get to see the numbers all the time. I live this every day, but it's just people are so unaware. They're so baffled when you're trying to explain to them why they have a copay because they have a deductible. What's a deductible? Well, you signed the contract. You said this. Well, why does my insurance cover this? My doctor says I need it. Well, your insurance says it's not on the formulary and they're not going to cover it. It's like, I don't want to be the bad guy. I want you to get your drug. I want you to get whatever medication you need. Your insurance is the one that's the bad guy that's blocking this. It's terrible. And maybe you can get it, but you've got to pay $1,000 a month to get it. And that's just wrong too, I think. But, what do I know? Anyway, so he's sitting here trying to boast about, it's $35 a month. I'm like, yeah, but that's only because you're on Medicare. So it screws everything up. Now, what really happened was, I was actually shocked by this. Drug companies did drop a lot of common insulins, not all the insulins, but they did. So like a bottle of like Humalog, like a vial of Humalog would be like $350, or we could even say 400, like Joe Biden's saying here, for a vial. That's what it used to cost to get. Now it's like $68. So drug companies did actually drop their prices, but I think there's like a real strategic reason for that. And then one of the reasons behind it is, like I said, these drug companies aren't just going to keep prices jacked up if it means that the insurance companies have to pay more, because they are working together. So they dropped their prices. It cost me $68 roughly, from what I remember, to get a vial of Humalog. All right, so you get to pay $35 on that. So that has come down. So we haven't seen like the side effects of like a $400 vial, and you only have to pay $35, and everyone else is going to have to pay out the wazoo. It's like people on Medicaid, right? That go to the ER. You get everything for free if you're on Medicaid and you go to the ER. You don't have to worry about it. You just go. The state's going to pay it. What's the state going to do? They're going to lowball, and they're going to pay the ER like the bare, just like nothing, just bare minimum. So how does the hospital emergency room there? It's a business. It's gotta make money to stay open and operate. So what do? They charge private insurances a ton of money. They charge you if you came in cash paying. That's why so many people are so afraid to go to the ER when they actually need to go, is because it's like, man, I don't want that ER bill. Because if you look at your insurance plan, it's like, if you go to the ER, this is what you're responsible for, and it's a lot of money. A lot of money. Why? Because they got to make up for it. They got to make up for all those people that come in that are on Medicaid, that get it going for free, and the state's just going to pay them nothing. Dr. Ferret, they're probably dropping insulin because they have cash cows called GLP-1s. Yes. We'll get into new drugs and fads and all the crazy new brand name drugs, and why brand name drugs get pushed so hard and whatnot. We'll get into that one of these nights. But yes, that is very true. That is very true. Unfortunately, though, everyone's going to need to be on. True insulin dependent diabetics or type 1 diabetics are going to need to be on that insulin. So yeah, they're going to always have that group, but they have definitely focused on the type 2 diabetics, or others with these other enticing brand name drugs. And of course, they find new ways, like, oh, this is for weight loss, right? For weight loss only. Oh, actually, this actually does help. A few years into the patent, oh, this actually, this actually does. We ran a new study. This actually does help decrease your risk of heart disease, because all these health conditions are tied together anyways. And like I said, with these drug studies, you can make anything look good. So then they go, oh, this actually, we can add a new FDA. Will you approve this new diagnosis code that you can that we can use this, and it will decrease heart disease. So now patients at risk of heart disease should be on this drug too. Oh, that gets to extend the patent for us. A lot of that dirty stuff behind the scenes. We'll talk about that another night too. But thank you for that, Dr. Ferret. Ferret, is that? I don't know. I'm terrible at reading names, but thank you. Here we go.
While we passed already inclusions starting in January. Every senior's total prescription cost can be capped at $2,000, no matter how expensive the drugs they have.
That's another issue. So going right back to what I was just saying, it's like, okay, cool. I'm happy for you. If you don't have to pay more than $2,000 out of pocket, I'm happy for you. But this is only for people on Medicare. So where does the government, where do the drug companies, where do all these people where the insurance company, where do they make up that money? Where do they make up that money? We can't charge you anymore, so who's going to pay it? You think the drug companies are going to ask the insurance, hey, we're going to need you to pay more, man, because your patient that you cover, they can't pay anymore, but you still got to pay for the bill? No, they're not going to do that. I mean, they will to a certain point, but they're not going to gouge insurance companies, because they're in cahoots with insurance companies. So what do? Well, they make up for it, like I said, elsewhere. They raise your premiums. They attack private insurance. So people on Medicare, congrats, but people that are on private insurance, now your premiums get to go up 20% every year for the same coverage, if not worse. What are we doing? Someone's paying for it somewhere. So, I mean, when the government comes in and tries to, do, it's like you hear that and you just talk about price controls, talking about communism and stuff in the chat, talking about price controls. Price controls don't work. Rent price controls, rent controls don't work. They actually ruin things. It's the same thing here. When you ever try to put a cap on anything and instead of letting the free market work, someone's paying for it. That's the working class. Me and you, everyday Americans, working class. It's not the people on Medicaid. It's not the people on Medicare here. It was people on Medicare and the working class. Now they stopped the Medicare part. Now it's just working class, private insurance. You guys get to pay for it, right? Great. Great. Shout out to the gamers. Yep. Shout out to all the gamers out there. Biden inflation. That's right.
And what we don't focus on, and our Republican friends don't seem to understand, our reforms don't just save seniors money, they save the American taxpayers money.
False. Once again, lies. Because where's that money coming from? Like, where are they making up for that money? Someone's paying for it. Even if it is not coming out even more taxes or anything like that. Okay. Well, if I have to pay more for my premiums, every working class person has to pay, who with private insurance has to pay more for their premiums, and their employers. That's another thing. People forget the employers pay a good chunk of that too. Well, someone's paying for it. So isn't that kind of like a tax? That's a new tax. That's 20% more than you didn't have to pay last year. That's a new tax.
You know what we just passed saved? It saved $160 billion over the next decade.
Wow. Congratulations, man. You saved $160 billion projected over the next decade. Now, remember, we got to trust the government on their numbers because they would never lie about that, right? They don't ever revise numbers and get them wrong. Like, the jobs report, 880,000 over the last year that they fudged up, and it was a little bit higher. The government never gets their calculations wrong, so we should just trust that it is 160 billion. But let's just say it is 160 billion over the next decade. So 16 billion a year. Cool. What is that? Didn't you give 160 billion over the last? Not when I say him, I meant once again, I think we focus too much on president. We got to talk about Congress because Congress has the power of the purse. Congress passing laws shit. So I mean, when you got people on both sides of the aisle voting for things, then you got to blame both parties and blame Congress as a whole. And if it's one side and that side's in power and they're the only ones voting for it, then we can blame that side. But it's still Congress, right? So Congress just gave 160 billion over the last couple of years to Ukraine. It's like, okay, well, we could have saved 160 billion there, but you chose not to do that. Wonder why. It's amazing. It's amazing. This is such a dirty game and such a dirty business. It's so sad too that so many people don't understand because the system's not built for you to understand. And when you're in it, like I am, a lot of people just shut up. Shut up. A lot of them are just brainwashed and they just go along with it. They've been taught their whole lives, because this is why all these things are connected. Like I said, with this channel, this new show, I want to talk about a bunch of different things, like our educational system, our healthcare system, politics, all that kind of stuff. It all mingles in together. And so I see a lot of stuff and it frustrates me because people don't see it. I feel like to get change, to eventually get something, like instead of just waiting for it to get so bad that something breaks, which we might be getting to that point anyway, something's got to give here. But when something does break and give, I don't want us to go down a path that we can't come back from, right? We make the problem worse because we're not educated. When I say we, I mean the average person, the person that doesn't see it. People my age who don't even understand healthcare because they're not, most of them, right? Don't have to deal with it. They're not unhealthy, for lack of a better term. But it's just sad to see all this. Millie Goats is here. What up, buddy? How about we work on preventing preventable diseases? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I do. I'm a pharmacist, and I encourage people to not take things. Meaning, like, I don't tell them don't take your drugs, right? Take your drugs take what's prescribed for you to you. By the way, once again, I said at the beginning, this is not medical advice. I'm not your pharmacist. Go talk to your own pharmacist, your own doctor. This is my opinion, my thoughts. I'm just thinking out loud, talking here. But yeah, well, how about we work on preventing preventable disease? Yeah, or if you are on medications, right? I encourage people. I help people try to get off their meds. You know, what can you do to change your lifestyle to help you get off these things? Now, some people, you got low thyroid, you got low thyroid. You need a pill for that. Okay, that's fine. You don't need 10 pills though, right? With say, I don't know, lifestyle modification instead of indoctrinating people to think getting healthcare is congruent with just getting medicine. That's right. That's right. Or like in our educational system where they just teach you, hey, we got a drug for that. And as a provider, we've got guidelines. We've got this organization, the JNC 10, and you've got to follow these blood pressure guidelines. And we've got the, Americans of Diabetes Association. Here's their guidelines. No, so if you got a new patient on this, you should do this, this, and this. It's like that's how they teach you now in farms or in medical school and pharmacy school and stuff. It's like you got to follow these guidelines because the government said these guidelines are great. They don't tell you that. Hey, you don't. You don't. You have a license. You get to do what you want because you're the practitioner. How about that? That's how it used to be. That's what these docs with all, that 7-year-old doctor that's got all this experience. He knows more than what these guidelines know. He knows that these guidelines aren't, that's what they are. They're guidelines. They're not exact. What's the right term I want to use here? Guidelines don't fit every single person and every single patient. They're a good starting point. Right? They're a good starting point. Like, okay, well, this is what we typically do, but you shouldn't just solely focus and rely on the guidelines. Then you're just a robot. And AI is going to replace you next. You know what I mean? I guess. Run from the poke, exactly. People don't. People haven't seen the end of the poke. Not nearly. I got people even in rural Idaho. Now, granted, they're older, and I just think how they're conditioned to it. But they are just asking, when are you going to get the next wave in? And I'm like, but you really want this thing? Like, we just had a wave of COVID here, right? We just had a wave in our area. It's like whatever's coming out now clearly missed the ball because it's already here. But people just get conditioned to it, Anyways.
That's not hyperbole. It's because Medicare no longer has to pay those exorbitant prices to the big pharma.
Yeah, they don't got to pay it to big pharma, which they don't tell you is not really how all that works. And also, all that money you save, we'll just ship it off to Ukraine. They'll do it.
But look, thank you, Kamala, too. Look, folks,
that's pretty much the end of the healthcare part. He comes in and talks about how Kamala and Tim Walz are going to come in and fight for your healthcare and not just make it so you have not just for Medicare. They want to make those insulin prices for private insurance, all this stuff, all these things that they promise you. Like I said in the Roman times, right? In the Roman times, they would do that. They would just outpromise each other with zero intentions of delivering. And if they do deliver, it's not in your best interest. But that's politics for you guys. But guys, that's what I had planned for tonight. I just want to talk about some of those things, get the ball rolling on this channel. I really appreciate every single one of you that showed up. I see that we have new subscribers to the channel. Thank you. All you guys in the chat, Joined at Apollo, Dr. Ferret, Random Shrub, Millie Goats, what up? Bear the Machine Gun, what's up? Masterings here. Jay Miller was in the house. You guys are all amazing. I don't have a schedule yet, but I'm going to work on getting us a schedule of when I'm going to go live and do these. Patriots in the house. What up, brother? Here's what's on the next show, though. I do know what I want to talk about in the next show, unless something crazy comes up. But I want to talk about what's behind America's doctor crisis, meaning like why is it so hard to get an appointment with a doctor or establish care when you move to a new area, or all that kind of stuff. Like, and why are doctors burning out? Why are pharmacists burning out? So we're going to get into that. We're going to dive into the benefits of intermittent fasting, or are there benefits to intermittent fasting? Let's take a look at that. And let's take a look at the science. Let's dive into those studies. Because remember what I said, you can't just read the headline of a study. All right, you can't. It's like accounting. You can make the numbers look any way you want them to look, and you can look through one lens and say that's what we're talking about. But you got to look at the big picture, and you got to dive into it and figure out what is the headline really telling me what it's telling me, or is it just telling me a part of the story? 99% of the time, they're just telling you a part of the story, and that part of the story might not even be true of what they're saying. But they got all their buddies to prove it, so that's good. That's good. And then another one that I thought was interesting was there's popular like just different things that we put in her body. So there's a popular sweetener linked to increased blood clots, heart attacks, and strokes. So we're gonna dive into that. Plus anything else that comes up, if there's topics you guys want me to talk about, and then just random things as we go along of my experience in the healthcare system, in our educational system, just things that I feel like ranting on. That's what this channel is going to be. By the way, shout out to my amazing wife for getting me the Uncensored Pharmacist sign up there. I would have it plugged in, but it's too bright. So if I plug it in, it just looks like a big green blob. I got to figure out some settings on this camera or something to change it. But still, shout out to her. She's amazing. Thank you for everyone tuning in tonight. Shout out to Rumble for posting me up top to get some exposure on this. Hopefully we can grow this channel into something fun and educational. I hope this is beneficial to you guys. It's going to just be it's going to be a nice little outlet for me to just rant and rave and talk about certain things that I want to talk about and that I think people need to be aware of. So once again, thank you everyone. This has been fun. It's a good night. I got to do a show in like 6 hours for my sports show. So I'm going to go try to set that up and get a little bit of sleep. I am Will, your uncensored pharmacist, and I'll catch you guys on the next stream. Have a good evening.